Qureshi. Our guest on the Living Legends tonight has been associated with the Community Participation on Security, better known as Nyumba Kumi. He was in the initial task force against drug and substance abuse, was the permanent secretary whose decision to enhance professionalism had been pushed to the limits that did not augur well. We speak to former Provincial Commissioner Joseph Kaguthi. Bwana Kaguthi.
Yes.
It's an extreme pleasure.
Thank you, and welcome back to the country.
Looking forward to this interview.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So, of course, we'll start off. Kindly tell us about your early life and education.
I am simply a son of a squatter during the colonial time in the then Naivasha district. And that's why I started during the time of emergency. The movement of my community through transit camps to Langata, we are sorted out. Then we head up back to Kinangop. And that's why I started school after working for 3 years at a colonial settler that time. And then they've started off the intermediate school. That time we did not have a single intermediate school in 59 in the whole county of Nyandarua. Intermediate school is started at 5 because the policies that time is that you reach started at 4, all of you go, get married, and you provide labor for them. So we did not have a single secondary school in that county called Nyandarua. Year 63, 64, we started in 65. That's where we went to open Nyandarua High School as a Form 1. Finished high school there.
Wow.
Then went kidogo to train as a teacher. I did not finish. Came to the university. I saw a revolution where these sheep, they are bought by SFT, Settlement Fund Trustee. The shambas that they were giving us only half an acre per family, they are chopped now, 7 acres, 10 acres, and they are given to Africans. It's a revolution. Then farmers training schools were established to teach farmers how to now farm. And you don't. I wish people knew. Kisi Abagusi were given Borabu district. Kakamega they were given Rugali. Bukusus they were given Togaren. Kikuyus were given Nyandarua. You see that. And you come to others like the Akamba, the Musagareni big scheme, Coast, Magarini.
Very interesting. No, it's so interesting. What you've just said is so interesting. Yeah. And it's so important to let people know about that.
It is there. So I left after a little training in Kamweja, came to university, joined teaching very, very briefly. Then I was recruited as a DO. My life now in service arts.
So anyway, so you joined the public service as an administrator?
As a DO, yes.
Yes. What are the selection and training processes for district officers at that point in time? We
had come from a period of very heavy Kenyanization and Africanization, where the recruitment of public service, Mwafrika, was they were recruiting from the university. But at that time, we started having enough content, enough of us. So they will now start advertising, and then we applied. I had not studied to be a DO. In fact, the chairman, the late William Wamalwa, asked me, Kaguthi, you don't appear as if you are preparing yourself to be a DO. Then I asked him in the interview, Chairman, how did you discover that? Everybody laughed, but before they finished, I told them, but I will make a good administrator. I think that conviction, they recruited me. So early 70s, that is. And that's how I started, worked in the induction.
And thereafter followed a beautiful, prolific career.
Yeah, because the preparation for that cadre was very good. You can imagine the induction was by the head of public service, Mr. G.K. Karevi, coming to tell us, you, DOs, once Mzee Jomo Kenyatta knows that he has a good DO serving his people, coordinating all the heads of department well to serve his people, he will sleep well. How do you think I was feeling when coming out of that induction? The Secretary of Exchequer, the PS, the Treasury, he is still there, Nicholas Nganga. He comes to tell us, you are now going to, we are having a little hiccup financially because it's the first oil shock. But don't mind, bother to look at the value for the shilling. If you are buying whatever you are buying, look at the value, compare the services that you get out of that shilling that we have. And that induction give me a kickoff over us, kickoff of quite a lot of love for the service. And that's how we were kicked off that time.
Fantastic. Professional, strict, discipline, high standards.
Yes. I can tell you that is true. Take decision. The worst person in administration is the one who is indecisive. Take decision. If there is a problem, we will correct it along the way.
That satisfaction,
No,
feel good factor.
it is good, even those memories that you served well. So from there, Western, served Western, came to Nairobi as a D1 Nairobi, to 80, went to Office of the President all the way to 91, 92, 92, 93. That is 13 years in Office of the President.
You worked very closely with the late President Daniel Arap Moi.
It's true, I worked very closely with Mzee Moi. When I was appointed in 1993, 10 days after the multi-party government was formed, I wrote back to him that I thank you, and my assignment is that I endear the people of Nyanza to you and your government through good services. And God willing, and with your guidance, we should be able to succeed. You can see the thinking that I had. And I had also to give even direction to the heads of departments so that they also get where I am. Because I was out of the field administration for a long time, from 1980. Now this is 93. And I remember after I took over from Mr. Kelu, and I knew that I had written to the president like that. So I just told the heads of department, I have two weaknesses, which we've got to go with. One, when I am reminded, the office is reminded on anything that we ought to do, is embarrassment to me, and it cannot be dealt by anybody else apart from me. Any letter of reminder must come to me as provincial committee, not my officers. But I have a second weakness. When I'm reminding somebody on what you ought to do and they have not done it, I get irritated. We are very clear, isn't it? The other one is, we are in the area of opposition. They have to get their own space. If they blame you and your department on anything substantive, we are running a political government. I'll go to where they are and start also blaming you. But wait until the end, I'll come out with you because I'm part of you. So Mzee Moi gives you a province to run, but you run with him. You get the input of that. So you got to consult him closely. If we took long and something did happen, avoid, that's what we avoided. Avoid surprising the president. Avoid. Brief him. It is the province. He's the one who was elected, not me. I'm only. And that's why I was there.
Working under him very closely and for a long period of time.
Yes, nearly 5 years.
What's your assessment of him as a leader of this country?
I think Mzee Moi's strength lay in his apparent weakness. Unamdharau. That apparent weakness, but the minute you see his strength.
So his strength was in his weakness?
No, in his apparent.
In his apparent weakness?
Yes.
Okay.
Moi hana shida na mtu. When he's campaigning, watoto enda ambieni wazazi wako, mama na baba, Moi ni mtu mzuri, wanichague. You see that? and even in his, but extremely generous and very understanding. He would regard us almost like his kids. Every time he came, I made sure that the provincial heads of departments, including the DCs, they meet him. A very rare thing. It doesn't happen.
So your rise to public prominence came in 1993, actually, when you were the Nyanza Provincial Commissioner, right? What were the challenges in an area that had picked an opposition stance against the government? How difficult was it?
It depends on the attitude you adopt. Look at my attitude. To come and dear the people to the president, any government, through good service, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So it was one of the easiest. Sometimes it would be the what do you call oscillation, very, very sharp. Just take it easy. Just take it easy. And but where it was very difficult, what did we do? We called the clergy. Join also in the softening.
You retired after serving as Permanent Secretary, Directorate of Personnel Management, right? Now, this was at the time that the late Dr. Richard Leakey was heading the civil service. Now, how do you oversee the public service at a time the IMF and the World Bank were calling for reforms in the government?
You know, Qureshi, it is not as simple as it is being put in the public limelight. So what I'm saying is this: we ignored the permanent government called civil service, and it was taken over by the political or temporary government every 5 years contract. So we lose now the administrative culture of the public sector. I don't know whether I'm able to explain this. So where we used to train the middle cadre and the junior staff and so forth, we replace them with the universities. And you know, universities are expansionists by nature. So we have that problem even now. The training on administrative culture, quote unquote attitudes, tuko na shida. So we have that problem even now. So that's from the way I see it.
Going to that now. The National Agency for Campaign Against Drug Abuse, NACADA. You led it for quite some time.
Not I led it.
Oh, you still lead it?
I founded it.
Oh, you founded it. And what did you find out about substance abuse in Kenya and best ways to fight it? And that's quite honorable. You actually founded it. I wasn't aware of that.
Yes, I was just called that there's a threat, and the president just told me that he's disturbed because they use the aim and they are therefore going to undermine the foundation of the country. So go start the campaign in schools, other learning institutions, and on the street. They didn't have any more information. So I decided to ask everybody who is telling me is a very big threat, because I don't know it. When I went to the head of public, she told me she didn't know. I went to the president, second floor, because I had retired. And he did not even allow me to thank him. He said, "We know you more than you think." After 1 year in the outside. So what do? Then I listen to you. You are telling me it's a very delicate problem. So I asked you a question. Give me a small note with 3 things. What is the scope of this problem in your view? If you don't take any action, what is the long-term ramifications of this country? And in your view as a professional, what must we do? That formed the training program for any officer that I brought in.
When you started this agency, what did you realize? How big was this problem?
No, it was big. And not only that, you know, drugs, they intimidate. They kill. Those ones, they do all, they corrupt.
In fact, I was quite surprised to listen to a statistic. Even when you go to rehab, your chances of getting back to normal were about 8 to 9%.
No, it is nasty. It's nasty. We introduced a law, and I think it was drafted by students, Christian students, post university, edited by the late by Professor J.B. Ojwang. That's why we have the act called Nakada. Then the same one with the tobacco. The Nakada law, you are comparing it the way I left it. We wanted 75% of the time they go to prevention. Do not do supply reduction. That is the law enforcement.
Better than cure. Now I want to come to a very important.
I wish you allowed me to say something kidogo too on that law, because I feel rather sad that there are two critical things that we put in that law. One, the chairman must always be appointed by the president and approved by parliament, so the parliament can check whether he can promote, because drugs can bribe. They corrupt. So that is one thing I doubt whether we are doing it. Number two, every 6 months, the law demands that the authority which was created by that law, they must report to the National Assembly and Senate every 6 months, June and December, what the other government departments are doing to fight that issue. Parliament has let us down. Number two, media has let us down. Nobody picks it, analyzes it, and say, how do we solve the situation?
I need to speak to you about the Nyumba Kumi initiative. This is one that calls on the public to become a collective unit for ensuring security at local level, right? Now, tell us about, very extensive question I have, because this is very close to your heart, I believe. How was the concept created? How is it coordinated? What have been the good and bad public responses to the Nyumba Kumi initiative? How do you deal with the challenge of persons who invoke their right to privacy? And how do you reach out to the young urban population, very important, that has their own perception of who to associate with? So it's a very extensive question. So it's very, very close to you. If you can do it in the next 5-6 minutes, because we're running out of time. Because I've got a last question after this.
That should have been President Uhuru Muigai Kenyattas' legacy. How he put it on the first Mashujaa Day. Security is a joint mandate of every person in Kenya. He did not even say citizen. Joint mandate. Two, the first test of whether they have taken that mandate well is their vigilance. And three, from those Nyumba Kumi, know your neighbor, know what they are doing. So 4 days later, I was
to be aware of
yes,
something.
Yes. 4 days later, I'm called and I'm asked by the minister now, would you like to help the country in mobilize towards what the president has just said? I was never taught to say no to our president, which is true. Even the one who will come in August, they think that I have a bit of energy. I cannot say no to my president. It is not possible, because that is like saying no to the whole of the Kenyan population, isn't it? So we now started. Now, what is it? We now get hooked. That is community policy. No, they started killing the elders in Kwale, in Old Town. Tukasema, no, you don't do like that. Let it be a committee formed with everybody. A committee where there is the youth, there is the women, there is this. And let it be autonomous. And they are leading, they address their problems there. They don't answer to anybody.
But you know, like I mentioned, how do you force a person who wants to invoke his right to privacy?
Let me come to you.
Okay. And of course, urban population especially,
You are 69 of you.
who have their own perception who they want to associate with. How do you force them? And they'll tell you, look, I'd like to be private. You're invoking my privacy.
No.
But I understand your perspective.
No. Like, we are here 69, where we are. We are 69 households. If you don't want to join that committee, but what you do, the more you put those walls, like the prisoners in Karen and other places, the more you endanger yourself.
Majority play ball.
Yes, not only that. The minute you become a virtual prisoner of your own, the people who are your enemies, they study your movement and so forth. And because the other people are not with you.
How successful has this been?
Extremely successful.
Extremely.
I can tell you. And you allow me to... you get like Lamu. You remember the Lamu where they killed people? Had Nyumba Kumi said it? The answer is yes. Even the police officers knew. Even this one of Westgate, it was there, reported.
You mean to tell me they knew of Westgate? There was information?
Mwananchi had already reported. We have it. This one of Kawangware, year 2017, the burning, we knew it 2 weeks before. Nyumba Kumi just reported. And the reporting, they said it.
But what's the use if no action was taken?
In my presence. They told the DCC in my presence.
It's been fantastic. I wish we had a couple of more hours. We could talk for hours and hours. As we head into the electioneering period, what would be your advice to administrators and, of course, persons who will be seeking political office? Your view should be very interesting on this one. On these ones, rather.
Every citizen should know that the elections is a passing cloud. The time I first participated in 1961, the same cheating of our politicians, that was by the late Kavidesh Bentik, how he cheated. He was an MP in Naivasha. He was writing 1961, na anageuza namna hiyo, meaning ataenda kupeana kule. The one I participated directly 69. And the politician is a passing cloud. It will have to come and go. Don't take it to the heart. Leave it to the lungs. Enjoy. Be watchful. Use Nyumba Kumi adequately. If you find that they are meeting and they are not meeting for a good cause, remember it is a selfish thing. It's a passing cloud. It's very important. 988. You keep on reporting. I am not a politician. I'm not going to join any politics, but I like telling people report. If the youth are overexcited, if you are an elder, please take a bit of time and cool it down. If you are an administrator, the rule, you remember, 6 months before the elections, you move away from your friends who are candidates. You move away from the campaign. If you do not move away from the campaign, they will convert you to be the election issue. They will say, "Who chief must go. Unichague who chief tutatoa." Then they look at anything that they can dump on that chief. You become the election issue. So we normally advise move away during that time. Allow them the field to do the campaign, but it is a passing cloud. It is a one-day affair, 1 week affair. It will go. The country will simply remain where we are.
Thank you very much, Joseph Kaguthi. You've had such an amazing, prolific career, and it's been such an honor to speak to a living legend. Thank you for being our guest.
I thank you, and welcome back to Kenya. Kenyans, let's have a good election, and somebody must win, somebody must lose. And when you lose, laugh it out.
That's the reality.
When you win, please embrace everybody else, and we get the country going.
That's a good parting shot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you heard it all. Regularize how public spending is done, have a holistic approach to drug and substance abuse, and service to the public is the first duty of any public servant at all levels of government. It has been a pleasure speaking to our living legend tonight, former Provincial Commissioner Joseph Kaguthi. My name is Fayaz Qureshi. Thank you for joining us.